Hi guys, welcome back to How to Stop Being a Loser, the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe, follow, so I can keep making these episodes for y'all. This episode is going to be all about how to make learning a lifestyle, how to lead your life with intellectual curiosity, and all of the amazing things that go along with that. We are in my car. I'm in the process of putting together a filming studio, like a proper filming studio as we speak, so I'm really excited. Hopefully next week I'll have a proper setup so I can have people on and just have a more elevated video experience for you guys. So yeah, welcome back to the show. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you took the time to listen today. And I'm so excited about this episode. This is definitely gonna be my favorite episode. I've been thinking about it for a couple days now and just really getting sure of what I want to say and what I want to convey, because this is the most important topic in the entire world to me, and it's really what I feel like my purpose in life is, and the reason why I make content, and the reason why I do everything that I do, which is I really want to inspire other people to prioritize their education, prioritize leading their life with intellectual curiosity, and seeing their mind as a playground. I have found so much value in that for myself, the fulfillment that I feel in my life as a human being, and it's quite a special, sacred thing to me, has been investing in my education and investing in my intelligence. So that's what I'm talking about today, is why I think it's so important, why I think this is something that you should do, and how to do it practically, how to retain information, how to understand information, habits you can implement, and like an actual practical guide of things that you can do to start feeding your brain and taking great care of your brain, keeping your brain sharp, focused, and making you as abundant in education, making you as abundant in intelligence as possible. This all started for me from, when I first started making content, it was all beauty based, because I grew up in the golden age of YouTube, which was like Jaclyn Hill and Lauren Curtis and Goss makeup artists and all of those, it was the beauty era of YouTube. And so that's kind of what I started creating my content around, and I've been doing that since I was 16. I'm 24 now. About a year ago, I took some serious inventory of my life, and I was like, what really makes me happy? Like, what really lights me up? Like, what's actually lighting my soul up? And I realized that the women I looked up to, whether it was book characters, movie characters, TV shows, people that I knew, I would get obsessed with. I would get so inspired by them and think about them all the time and try and embody them. And I couldn't figure out why I was getting so invested in all of these characters and all of these other people. And then I took a step back and I was like, okay, what is this? Because there's something here that is really speaking to me and lighting me up from the inside. There's something about all these role models that I am overwhelmingly inspired by, vehemently lit up by. Do you know what I mean? And I realized the common denominator in all of these role models, all of these female characters, and I mean male characters too, it was that they were intelligent and that they invested in their education, and I saw them as very competent, and that brought them lots of confidence, which then brought them lots of success. And I realized that I wanted to do that. I wanted to start my sort of journey of prioritizing feeding my brain and taking care of my mind and my intellectual curiosity, my education. And I really found my purpose through that. And then all of my content started to be centered around that. And everything in my life has flourished. Everything in my life has flourished. The second I started doing that, the second I started reading and leading my life from a curious way. Yeah, like everything that I do is from the standpoint of I want to learn. So that's kind of how I came to this. It wasn't like something that I have just always had. It was like an epiphany, and I've changed my content to be mainly focused around that. And I really believe that the purpose of what I do, the purpose of why I do what I do, is because I want people to be inspired about learning again. And I want people to understand their own minds and see their minds as an ally. How do you make your mind an ally? My goal in life is to teach as many people as possible how to do that in practical, applicable ways to their life. Do you understand? And when another thing that came about is when I looked back on my life, because I think everyone has this moment in life, and it's typically in your 20s, where you're like, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what actually am I doing here? What do I want to do with my life? Not just from a career perspective, but like, what's my purpose? Like, what am I want to lead my life with intention. What is that intention going to be? What kind of people do I want to surround myself with? What do I want my days to look like? Like, what is my driving purpose every day? And I really took inventory of that. And I looked back on my life and I realized that without fail, consistently, all the times in my life where I felt the most fulfilled, the happiest, the most competent, the most confident, it's when I was learning. It's when I was prioritizing my intelligence. It's when I was prioritizing my learning and I was taking great care of my mind. That is when I felt the most fulfilled in my life. Like truly, truly fulfilled and like lit up from the inside out. And so I decided that instead of having this habit that I arbitrarily implement into my life sometimes, like sometimes I do this. Sometimes I'm in a phase, my learning era, or like sometimes I'm in a phase where I'm learning and researching things. Instead of having that, I decided I want this to be my lifestyle. I want to lead my life from this place because it makes me undeniably happier. And if I can live my entire life in this way, I think that would be a life well lived. I think that would be the most valuable thing I could do, is invest in my education. I was right. That was my hypothesis and I was right. It has connected me more to life because when you really love something, like you fall in love with someone, you want to know everything about them and you're very curious about them and you have a million questions for them and you could sit there and listen to them talk about themselves all day long because you're so invested. I started looking at life like that. I love life, but I think life is only going to love you if you love it back, and you can't love something unless you understand it. And so understanding life and all of the assets of it, all of the different facets that are this life that we're living, whether it's my body or my brain or the science of nature or space or the universe or quantum physics or the history of the world, ancient archaeology, you know, all of these things, the more I learn about life, the more I love it, the more I want to know. And the value that I have found in that is, it just blows my mind. Albert Einstein said the day you stop learning is the day you start dying, and I could not agree with that more. Nothing has altered my perception and made me feel more alive in my life than prioritizing my intelligence and investing in my brain. The humility that is gained from learning things that you know nothing about and forcing the mind to stretch is so cool. And you have no idea how much potential you can tap into when you start carrying yourself with the conviction, confidence, courage, humility that is gained from stretching the brain and forcing yourself to learn new things and think about things in different ways. And that confidence and courage will naturally extrapolate into all the different areas in your life. So as a result, you become a better partner because you're able to understand your partner better, because you're able to understand yourself better. You're able to understand the psychology and the neuroscience of what's going on there. You know, what is the science behind falling in love with someone, and what dynamics psychologically create a healthy, happy relationship? You become a better friend for the same reasons. You become a better coworker, you become a better parent, you become a better human being because you're able to understand life. If you can't understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, why other people are doing the things that they're doing, why nature does the things that it does, why the world operates in the way that it does, it's going to be very hard for you to find love and fulfillment for it. When you're well-rounded because you're rich in education, you will feel the most abundant you've ever felt. Abundance comes in many forms: financial abundance, things, people that love you. All those things are wonderful, but there's one kind of abundance that no one can take from you, and it's intellectual abundance. It's being rich in education. It's being abundant in intelligence. No one can take that away from you. Things can be taken from you, people can be taken from you, money can be taken from you. Your brain cannot be, and your brain is a playground. It's something that you get the chance to design and color and shape shift any way that you want. You can perceive this reality however you want to, and not using that to your advantage, not learning how to do that, and not learning about the life that you're living, not learning about the body that you're in, to me is a life wasted. Emotional intelligence, critical thinking, logical reasoning skills, empathy, academic education, problem solving skills. And for me, it's become kind of a spiritual thing, just from the sense of like, I love this life so much and I'm so grateful to be living this life. I want to know everything about it because life and God and the universe, for me, it's an appendage of that. And so why would I not want to know everything about it that I can? It's always blown my mind to think about, there are people out there in this world, in their world, who are not going to see it. Go see the world. Go learn everything you can about the world. Go learn about different cultures and histories and food and music and art and science and math and all of these amazing things that are so different all over the globe. And you're not even going to learn about it? You're not even interested? What a waste of time. I think loving the mind that God gave you and using it to its full advantage and stretching it to its full potential to see what you can do is such a rite of passage. And there's a great quote from Good Will Hunting. It's, most people will never get to know how brilliant they can be. And I think growing up, I felt that very deeply. I felt like I knew I was smart and I knew how smart I could be. I knew how brilliant I could be, but I didn't have the support and the confidence to really explore that because I'd always been told that I wasn't very smart, like academically at least. And I think that that's really sad, and that's why I'm so passionate and want to brand into people's brains like, you have no idea how much potential you can tap into and how brilliant you can be and how much happier and more fulfilled and how much more you could love this life if you just took the time to learn as much about it as possible. The level of self-respect that you have to have, the level of self-love that you have to carry with you to be able to say, I'm going to spend my time doing something that maybe I don't particularly want to do, but I'm gonna do it because I want to learn, because I'm curious, because I want to push my brain and stretch myself and invest in my education. So I'm gonna take my time to read this thing, to learn about this thing, really research this part of life. Whatever it is, if it's science, great. If it's medicine, great. If it's math, if it's psychology, if it's how boats work, if it's the Netherlands, if it's cooking, whatever it is, any topic. If you have enough self-respect and self-love to prioritize taking great care of your God-given brain and loving the brain that God gave you, you have no idea. You will feel like a completely different person once you start spending your time in that way. And every single time that you practice this, every single time you lead your life with intellectual curiosity, you're reminding your brain that you respect yourself enough to do it, that you love yourself enough to do it, that you love your brain enough to do it, that you are intelligent, that you are capable. And that's just neuroscience. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And when I do this, it makes me sharper. I literally feel myself having to slow my brain down because I'm problem solving so fast. I'm critically thinking so fast. I'm much more loving and understanding with other people because I understand why they're doing the things that they do. It makes me a much more empathetic person. Empathy is a fabulous indicator of intelligence. If you meet someone that can see all sides of an argument, they can see all sides of a coin, that is someone who has mastered aerial perspective and can see things from up here and see and understand, well, yeah, this could be true, but this could also be true. And everything is ambiguous when you really start to think about it. And so I think it makes me a kinder, more loving person. And it also makes me smarter from the sense of who I surround myself with. One of my favorite neuroscientists, Dr. Tara Swart, said she's incredibly particular with who she allows in her tribe because of mirror neurons, because of interpersonal neural synchrony. Your brain waves sync up with the people that you're interacting with. You have mirror neurons in your brain that are going to reflect whatever they're observing. The brain is going to expect what you feed it the most. So feed it good shit. Of course, just from a self-care perspective, I understand my body better. I understand how to make myself feel the best and be the healthiest that I could be because I love studying science and anatomy and those kinds of topics. It makes me funnier because I'm sharper, because I'm quicker. Humor is intelligence having fun. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time, and it's so true. If your vocabulary is improved, if you're able to articulate yourself well, you're able to communicate better and more effectively, you are literally able to express yourself better and connect with other people from a much stronger place because you're able to really express how you feel to them. You're able to use the words that you didn't even know existed to convey how you're feeling, to convey your messages. And I think that is absolutely incredible. The development of language is crazy. We literally developed language just because we wanted to understand each other better. And then it gets crazy when you realize how many different languages there are, and you can go learn all of them. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but understand that you are your life's work, and the greatest project you will ever work on is designing your mind. Brittany Broski said, it's so funny because she's seen as a comedian because she's absolutely hilarious. She's comedically brilliant, but she's also very, very insightful and very wise. She said, the greatest armor you can equip yourself with is intelligence. It is the only thing that has weight in this world. And honestly, it makes me emotional realizing that I've been given this platform and I've been given the time to sit here and talk to you guys about this, that I've been given the privilege to study, to spend my time learning things for fun. When I think about how grateful I really am, grateful doesn't even begin to describe it. There's not a word in the English language that can describe the gratitude that I feel for the opportunity that I've been given to learn about the world, to learn about life, and to share my knowledge with you guys and with my friends and with my family. To have two eyes that work, to have two ears that work, to have a brain that is very sharp, to have people that love me that are interested in learning at the same time, to have the resources and the access to things that help me study, that help me learn. It's a gift that I'd never want to take advantage of, and it's a gift I never want to take for granted, and I don't think anyone else should either. That's not to guilt you if this isn't something that you're doing, but it's just to remember that most people have the world at their fingertips, and they have a limitless, abundant amount of resources. They just don't realize it. It's something for you to take advantage of, and it's something for you to love. And the more I learn, the more I want to know. And the more I practice this way of thinking, the more I walk around all day going, why is the sky blue? Why does the human body do this thing that it does? Why do people operate like this? How do they build houses? Why are there 12 months in a year? Why are there 7 days in a week? How did the English language originate, and why is it so different from Spanish, French, and Italian? Why does my heart operate the way that it does? How do my organs do things without me telling them to? I mean, all of these different things. There's a million different questions. History, geography, biology. And it makes life so much more fun and so much more enriching when you realize that you're surrounded by all of these mysteries and all of these things that you know nothing about. And you could dedicate your entire life to learning them, and you probably wouldn't get to a 10th, because life is just this abundant basket of things that you don't know. And that's so great that you get to tap into that. And it's a much better use of your time, in my opinion, than anything else. The greatest project of my life has been creatively designing and engineering my mind and being able to share that with everyone on here. And my goal in life, really, I've said this, is knowing a little bit about a lot of different things. I think that's a great goal to have. I think it makes you a much more interesting person, not for the sake of being interesting to other people, but for the sake of being interesting to yourself. Do you understand? And the sense of self-love that it creates when you see yourself as someone who's interesting, and you see yourself as someone who's cool and smart and intelligent and competent and doesn't need to prove themselves to anyone else. That is the only real source of power you can obtain in this world. So now I want to give you guys some practical things that you can apply to your everyday life, and just kind of explain, like, what am I talking about when I say lead your life in this way. I have my mind maintenance series and my learnings of the week series that's on my TikTok and my Substack, which is a great place to start if you want to keep up with what I'm learning and the habits that I'm implementing on like a weekly, bi-weekly basis. But I do keep them on my phone, so here's just kind of my like running list of things you can do to keep your brain sharp and focused and keep your mind kind of working. New York Times games, brain games, every morning. Play 3 of them. Do that before you get on your phone, or buy a book of brain games. You can get them on Amazon, but crossword puzzles, Sudoku, logic games, Wordle, all of those things. When you're waiting in line, when you're waiting for appointments, if you're in an elevator, if you're at a red light, get off your phone and allow your brain to do nothing. Allow yourself to daydream and allow yourself to be bored. Have you ever noticed that no one says, I'm so bored anymore? Why? We used to say it all the time when you were younger, but now we have phones. So the second we get bored, we get on our phones and we scroll and scroll and scroll looking for some better content that never appears, shockingly. So allowing the brain to be bored, what that does is it activates the brain's default mode network, which is, how am I gonna, okay, I actually used an analogy in my TikToks that I thought was kind of funny. They're a group of friends. There's a couple of them in the brain. So imagine a brain And there's different regions of it being lit up in different colors, and they're all friends. And when you relax, and when you daydream, and when you meditate, and when you take long showers with no stimulation, when you go on long walks with no stimulation, when you sit outside and just stare at the trees with no stimulation, those moments, those all wake up and they all hang out, okay? And those regions of the brain collectively hang out and create new neural connections that they wouldn't be able to do if you were just being productive all the time. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's when you're not focused on the external world around you, you're just focused on what's right in front of you. And it's more introspective when you're recalling past memories, when you're thinking of, you're letting your mind kind of wander and meander. That is so important for creativity and imagination, and for keeping those parts of the brain, creating those new neural connections and neural pathways. So yeah, allow your brain to relax. Meditation is something I could talk about. I could do an entire podcast on meditation. I started meditating when I was 5. I actually did martial arts as a kid, and they taught us how to meditate properly. And I've also seen psychologists that have taught me how to properly meditate, and just studied the neuroscience behind why it is so effective. And it influences so many different regions of the brain and the body. There's even studies that show that when you meditate, it can affect the people around you. It is amazing for memory, attention, emotional regulation, ability to regulate your change your baseline default mood. It's great for stress, for anxiety, for your ability to focus. Did I already say that? It's very comprehensive, and it affects so many different regions of the brain. And there's different meditations that you can do for different things. Like you can do body scan meditations and creativity meditations. If I were to tell you to research one thing, it would be that. Meditate for 5 minutes every single morning. If you get anything out of this video, let it be that. Memory challenges, ask yourself, what did I eat for breakfast yesterday? What did I wear 2 days ago? What did I do 2 afternoons ago? Exposing your brain to different languages. I talk a lot about neuroplasticity. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is the brain's ability to create new neural connections, new neural pathways, and rewire itself. When the brain is able to rewire itself, and it's a malleable thing, you're able to rewire it to be more positive, more confident, stronger memory, better focus, perceiving your reality from a different mode, because you can change the brain. The brain is neuroplastic and it can change. Your brain is a playground. And once you realize that neuroplasticity is real and you can alter the mind, it's a pretty incredible realization. And when you do things like learn a new language, learn to play an instrument, learn the roadways of a city, those things will encourage and maintain the creation of those new neural pathways and keep the brain neuroplastic. If you want to really change your life, it's funny, you can't change your life. You can change your perception of it. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people do is they're so busy on fixing their life when that's never going to serve you. It starts from here. Man in the mirror, okay? Like, it starts with your brain. You can't alter your life, but you can alter your perception of it. You can't alter your reality, but you can alter your perception of it. So learn how to do that and make sure that you're maintaining your brain's neuroplasticity. And I like to expose myself to new languages. Like I'll watch Spanish talk. So I'll watch like Get Ready With Me in Spanish, Hauls in Spanish, Stand My Life in Spanish. I listen to immersive Spanish podcasts in my car. Sometimes I watch children's movies in Spanish. But yeah, I mean, there's beautiful languages. French and Italian and Portuguese is really hard. Anyway, expose your brain to new languages. Read an hour a day. I like to have a fiction and a nonfiction book going. I am studying for the LSAT right now, so I'm not super diligent about this just because I read so much studying for that, but I'm pretty good about it. I'm pretty consistent with like at least 30 minutes a night I will read. And if you don't have 30 minutes, read a page. It's always better to read a page than to read nothing. If you can't read 5 pages, read 1. If you can't study or learn for an hour, do it for half an hour. It's always better to show up than to not show up at all. But yeah, reading is absolutely amazing for your brain. Amazing for your brain. You have to read. Everyone has to read. It's like drinking water to me. You have to read books. It's so good for keeping the mind sharp, for learning more, for improving and increasing your vocabulary, for gaining new perspectives, and just hearing the way that authors write and exposing yourself to the inside of someone else's mind, and also forcing the mind to get really focused on one thing to where that's the only thing that you're focusing on, and get in that flow state of deep work, get really into a book, really good for you. Sleep, prioritize your sleep. Your sleep is it's the most important thing. It's the most important thing for your health, and I would argue that with a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Contrary to popular belief, some people think that I am. I'm absolutely not. But that's when your brain does housekeeping. That's when it literally washes itself out. That's when it is able to consolidate memory information. It's able to filter out all of the things that you don't need. It's able to reset. I mean, that is your mind's maintenance time. That's like, not sleeping is like not giving a car gas. It's just not gonna work. You gotta sleep. And the more you can prioritize quality sleep, the better you will feel and the sharper your mind will be. No questions asked. Affirmations, they work. There is neuroscience behind affirmations working. The most powerful words you will ever say are the ones that come after I am. If you can do this in a mirror, that's great. There's actually something called mirror work. And that works because when you're looking in a mirror and you're looking into your own eyes and you're saying these affirmations, your brain will start to associate those things with you, create those neural pathways in your brain, neuroplasticity, and now you're operating from that perspective, because that's the way that your brain operates. You're operating as someone who is successful. You're operating as someone who is financially abundant. And that's where this concept of manifestation comes from. You are not generating more money into your reality that wasn't there prior. You're enabling your brain to be able to see what's been there the entire time. You have two wolves inside of you. I say this all the time. You've got a positive wolf and a negative wolf. Every time you feed one, you have to starve the other. Every time you feed the negative wolf, or every time you feed the positive wolf, you starve the negative one. And what that means, as you know, an analogy to the mind, is every time you decide to look at a situation and find the value in it and decide that it is going to be advantageous to you no matter what and be positive about it, you're training your brain to operate that way over and over and over again. It comes from reps. Over and over and over again. Repetition is key, and that's what's going to build the habit. So, affirmations, very important. Repeat them, repeat them, repeat them, repeat them. And the more emotion you can say them with, and the more you can actually believe them and say them from a place of truth, the more they will actually change your brain. Meditation actually changes your brain. Meditation and affirmations can grow. Actually, I don't know about affirmations. Don't quote me on that. I would be shocked if it wasn't true. Can actually grow parts of the brain and shrink parts of the brain. It like physically can change the brain. Anyway, I need to make a whole podcast about that, but that blows my mind that you have that much control over your reality. Omega-3 fatty acids, your diet, of course, but I take really high quality omega-3s from JS Health, fish oil every day. Really good for brain health. Antioxidants are as well. If you don't have the budget for supplements, by the way, it's a supplement. You're supplementing it, assuming you're not getting enough of it in your diet or you just want more of it. Walnuts, salmon, olive oil, olives, fat. Healthy fats, great for your brain. Phone restrictions on social media. I obviously do this full time. My screen time is disgusting. I don't really scroll very much because I spend so much time looking at screens, talking to screens. And so my apps go off at 7 and I'm done. A lot of times I'm still filming, but well, that's not true. I'll edit it, really. But I try to be done at 7 with the screens. And then I'll typically study is the problem. So I'm done with social media at that time. And having that restriction on your phone, I think is really helpful. Trivia, like I love Sporkle. I play that with my boyfriend a lot. Sporkle is an app. You can play a little like geography and science trivia. Also just like Quizlet. I love Quizlet. Quizlet is trivia. Look up like little trivia questions on Quizlet. It's so much fun. Or play trivia with someone else, or look up trivia online. So those are like actual applicable habits that you can incorporate. Also, just coming at things from a place of, I'm not going to be satisfied. Marcus Aurelius said, don't ever be satisfied with a surface level understanding of things. You have to want more. You have to want to go deeper. Don't ever read something and be okay with not understanding it and digesting it fully. If you're in a conversation with someone and you hear a word that you don't know, do not be satisfied with not knowing it. You have to know it. You have to learn it. You have to go look it up. If someone's talking about a topic that you know nothing about, do not be satisfied with that. That is not good enough for you. You have to have the self-respect and the self-love to want to have a deeper understanding of things and of the world around you. So it's really just in life, if you're interacting with someone else, I don't care if you think they're the dumbest people on the planet, they know something you don't and they're better at something than you are. Every single time there's always gonna be someone smarter than you. So use this as an advantage to you. Use it as, you know, to say to yourself, I'm gonna find the value in this situation and learn something from them. They know something that you don't. Ask people questions. Maybe it doesn't sound like something that you'd be interested in, but something that has really served me in my life from a business perspective, from a networking perspective, is I say yes to pretty much everything if it involves quote unquote networking or connecting with other people, and I will talk to anyone about anything. I'm not gonna be friends with everyone because, again, I'm very careful with who I keep in my circle, but like, I don't know anything about roofing or construction, so if I come across someone who knows something about that, I'm gonna ask questions just for the sake of knowing it, just for the sake of learning and expanding my knowledge. Why would I not do that? What do you want to talk about, the weather? No, like, let's talk about interesting stuff. And I think it's having those conversations and being sort of allergic to small talk, very, very helpful. Come at things from a place of I'm curious. If you're eating food and you don't know how it was made and you can't figure out what was in it, ask. Think about, how did they cook this? How did they cook this thing that I'm eating, that I'm putting in my body? Everything that you do in life, like the car that you drive, do you even know how it works? The eyes that you see out of every day, do you know how they work? All the products that you use, do you know why the ingredients do the things that they do? Like the skincare that you put on the largest organ in your body that's highly absorbable and you don't even know it's going into your bloodstream and you don't even know. I mean, there's so many things. If you were to challenge yourself to take a day and say, I'm going to be curious about everything, it'd be probably quite overwhelming. So yeah, I think it's just changing your mindset from a sort of brain dead, default autopilot, in one ear out the other way of operating, to someone who's curious and awake. It's like, you gotta have a pulse. You gotta be like engaged and curious and asking questions. And I think you'll find a lot more fulfillment out of life. I listen to podcasts like it is my job. I love them. I love them. I love them. I will listen to them multiple times. I like to take notes. I like to watch documentaries. I love to read articles. I love to play brain games. I am pretty serious about finding as much science-backed information as possible. There's a lot of bullshit out there. So I tend to look at like National Institute of Health or just like Google Scholar and make sure I'm looking at peer-reviewed clinical studies when it comes to things, or make sure that they are coming from a verified psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, neuroscientist when it comes to sciencey things like that, instead of maybe ChatGPT. I know a lot of people love to use that, which there's nothing wrong with it, but sometimes, you know, it's good to see the studies and actually understand the way that things were studied. And it's also a great challenge to challenge yourself to read a full scientific study on something and stretch your brain in that way and doing deep work. I think there's something so powerful and so human and necessary about doing deep, deep work and healing your attention span in that way. And by the way that you maintain this, because I know this probably sounds overwhelming, it's really not. You don't need to do all these things every single day. You need to do the things that speak to you, that make you feel smarter and more fulfilled and more intelligent, and you need to do those. I certainly don't do them every day. I do at least one, if not a couple, every day. You know, I read, I listen to podcasts, I watch intellectual kind of academic things. You know, it's just a part of my life. So I'm saying it doesn't need to be like a tracked routine. It needs to become a part of who you are, and you want it to be, I promise you. I know that that might sound daunting, but it's not. And another thing I get commented on. I want to address, you know, how to actually learn things and how to understand things. I wish someone would have explained it to me in this way in school, because I think I would have been able to retain information much better. I get a lot of comments that say, I forget everything that I learn. Like, I don't know the point of sitting there and learning something if I know I'm gonna forget it in 3 weeks. The funny thing about this is that it's quite intuitive once you think about it, but the reason why you're not learning things is because you're not trying to understand them. You're actually not trying to learn them. You're just listening. And what you're doing is you're thinking of the information that's being given to you, whether it's a podcast or a movie or a documentary or a book or an article, as a lecture instead of a conversation. This is not someone lecturing you, because what happens is when you think of it that way, someone could tell you a fact, and then you could go, oh wow, that's crazy, or oh wow, that's really interesting, or you could hear it and regurgitate it onto a piece of paper and see if you can memorize it. It's like there's no learning, there's no conceptualizing, there's no rumination, there's no chewing on it and digesting it and actually getting it into your body and getting it into your brain and into your life. And the reason why is because it's literally going in one ear and out the other, because that's what you're doing. You got to keep it in here for longer. So if I say something to you like, there are more bacteria in your gut than there are cells in the human body, and you go, oh, that's crazy, in one ear out the other, no shit, you're not going to retain it. It means nothing to you. The brain is a survival tool. It's only going to care about things and remember things that have to do with its survival. You have to start training your brain to see this, to see learning as something that's important and something that you are going to prioritize from now on. And I'll tell you how to do that with your dopaminergic system in a second. But you need to go deeper. So if I tell you that fact, instead of going, oh wow, cool, and moving on with your day, or writing it down and then moving on as if writing it down did anything but make your hand move in random shapes, please. You need to start going, okay, wait. There are more bacteria. What kind of bacteria? In my gut? What is my gut? That doesn't sound like an organ. I hear the word gut all the time, but is that my small intestine? Is that my stomach? Is that my large intestine? Is that my pancreas? I don't know. What kind of bacteria? Bacteria is always bad. I guess there's good bacteria. I've heard of like probiotics and yogurt and stuff. And what are prebiotics and what are postbiotics and how many different kinds of bacteria are in my gut? And when they say more, is it one more? Because that's really not that interesting. How many cells are there in the human body? Are we talking about all cells? Can I lose cells? Can I lose bacteria? And would this be the same in a toddler? And would this be the same in someone who was malnourished? And what if I have some kind of disease that prevents, whatever? Ask questions and argue with it. Don't be satisfied with a surface level understanding. If you cannot teach this to someone else, you don't, no. Albert Einstein said, if you can't teach it to a kindergartner, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it. If you can't explain that, if I said, explain that to me, but make it a children's book, and the cells are oranges and the bacteria are apples. This is an incredibly elementary, simple example. But do you know what I'm saying? If you can go and write a paper on it and make it an alien, or you know what I mean? Like put it in different contexts and argue the antithesis of it and flip it around and find the counter argument and do all of these different things until you really can understand it. You have to go deeper. I read a great article the other day called How to Understand Things, and it said the smartest person I know would understand things to the point of fully understanding them and then go write like 4 abstracts on them even after he understood them. He would never be satisfied with a simple understanding, and it always had to be a deeper level of knowledge of this topic and how can I spin this around. And think about how is this going to be personal? It has to be personal to you because it has to mean something to you to be able to remember it. And a lot of times the whole grades thing, like people will do that because they're like, I have to remember this because it's gonna affect my grade. And that's one way to make it personal. But what if you could make the information itself mean something to you? What if that is going to affect the way that you take care of yourself? What if that's gonna affect your supplement routine? What if this is something that you could use to help someone else? Like, how is this going to affect your life specifically and personally? Suddenly, you're gonna be able to remember things a lot easier. And I also think it's about the quality of the learning instead of the quantity of the information. It sounds like I am listening to 4,000 different things every day, but I actually tend to pick a topic and get into it. Like, I've been on a huge science kick for the past year. I've been just so enthralled with neuroscience and medicine and psychology. And I'm recently learning about quantum physics. And I'll probably read this quantum physics book I'm reading twice and watch these videos online, 4,000 different quantum physics videos. And it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And I think if you're trying to listen to a history podcast, read a book about biology, learn about finance, it's too much, and it's not going to seem as important as if it was like one topic. So that's what I would recommend. And I'm listening to a podcast right now. I listened to an economics podcast the other day. That has nothing to do with quantum physics, but it's not like I'm setting aside an hour or two and trying to fit in all this information. It's like I'm driving around and I'm gonna listen to half of this podcast about economics, and I'm listening to the other half tomorrow. And when I go home at night, I'm reading about quantum physics. And I don't watch TV either, but I would say most people work a 9 to 5. I don't. I work way later than that. But if I was, or I did decide to take the night off work, 5 to 10 p.m. is 5 hours. What are you doing? So it's you're going home and you can't take 20% of that time and do something other than watch TV. Watch an intellectual documentary. So I'll read for 30 minutes a night. I'm studying for a lot of that time, so that's another way that I work my brain. But get up in the morning, and for the first 30 minutes, you can journal and you can read articles. I love Substack articles. I read probably one every morning, and play brain games. That's a lot. And if you can get in a 5-minute meditation and do affirmations while you're doing your makeup, it's not this needs to be a set aside thing that you do. That's what I'm trying to say, is you need to integrate it into your life. Instead of listening to music in the car, put on a podcast. And the way that you can kind of maintain this, because I know a lot of people struggle, quote unquote, struggle with motivation. Motivation is dopamine. Okay, if you have low motivation, or you're not consistent with things in your life, if you're oh, I'm gonna do this for a week and then I'm gonna get over it, you need to, okay, so what we wanna do, like I've been saying, the brain is neuroplastic, and so there are a lot of things that you can do to train your brain to want to do this, to be quote unquote motivated to do this, and for it to become your default, for it to become your habit to think like this and to live your life in this way. But my favorite thing, and maybe it's because I just most recently learned about this, but your level of motivation as an individual is directly related to your dopaminergic system in your brain. When your brain releases dopamine, that's your brain saying, do that again. Dopamine has a lot of different functions, but for the purposes of this video, this is just the one that I'm going to focus on, is how it relates to your reward system and your motivation system in your brain. You need to learn to reward the effort, not the final outcome. You can actually control the release of dopamine in your brain with your thoughts, which I think is just so amazing. But you really can. You can tell your brain to release dopamine and tell yourself neurologically, neurochemically, do that again, and become addicted to this thing by your behavior and your thoughts. So I have been a notoriously terrible example of this. So I tend to only praise myself or get excited or reward myself when I've achieved the final outcome of things. It's typically a numbers thing. Oh, well, once I get this many followers, once I make this much money, once I work for this many hours, then I will reward myself. It's so asinine when you think about it. You're rewarding something and you're telling your brain to do something again that is unachievable and unsustainable, because you're not looking to achieve that final outcome every single day. That's not life. Life is the consistent effort and work towards those things. And that's what's really important. Yeah, the final outcome is great, and that's a goal that you're working towards, but the goals and the rewards needs to be associated with the effort and the consistency of the work. It's about the journey, not the destination, as cliche as that sounds. There's this great TikTok I saw the other day. Her name's Sammy Rose on TikTok. She's adorable. I adore her. But she was like, the biggest thing that really helped my happiness was, yeah, you can get happy about, people typically get happy about weddings, babies, anniversaries, trips, these big grandiose things, raises, moving, buying a house. Of course you should be happy about having a baby and buying a house. Those are wonderful things, but that's not life. That's not the road. That's a very, very small part of life. And if you're training your brain to only release dopamine, to only feel rewarded and happy when those big things happen, you kind of set yourself up for failure. You need to learn to reward yourself for the effort and for the small things. And she said, once I started really appreciating and loving the little things, my life improved so much. And I made a video about this afterwards because it was so impactful to me. And I knew that that was true. And that's when I went and learned the science behind it of like, why is it so important to appreciate the little things in life? And it sounds so cliche, but it is science backed. It is science backed. Like, if you're driving around and you can learn to go, wow, like these trees look so vibrant and beautiful, and it's such a beautiful day outside, and I'm so grateful that I have my car, and I'm so grateful that I'm healthy, and I'm so grateful that if something happened, I would have friends to call. But even like this coffee, like I'm so grateful that I have my coffee and I'm just really gonna like enjoy it. Or if I'm talking to someone else, I'm gonna really enjoy this conversation. Or I really appreciate the architecture of this building, or that bird is so cute. I mean, really simple little things. If you can learn to allow those to make you happy, your life gets better, because that's life. It's those little moments all the time that really make you happy. And that's what's going to motivate you to continue that behavior. So instead of rewarding yourself for scoring really high on a test, or completely and comprehensively understanding the psychology of the human brain, or, oh, I read for an hour, I'm so proud of myself. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about rewarding yourself and getting excited about and finding happiness and fulfillment in, I'm really enjoying reading this book right now. Like, I'm really grateful that I just have 5-10 minutes to myself to just read this book. And I'm really grateful that I get to learn this right now. Or I'm really proud of myself for asking that person that question, or learning this word, or learning this little fact about the brain, or whatever it is. Those little things, they hold so much more weight. So that's how you're going to control your dopamine release, to tell your brain to do it again. And that's how you're going to stay consistent with this and wire the brain to operate from this way and make learning your lifestyle. Do you understand? And another thing that someone commented, and I don't know if she was a neuroscience student or if she just researches it for fun like I do, but she said there's actually a sort of hack to this. And I loved it. I thought it was so, you know, it made so much sense why this would work. And it's like, there's a hack to this. When you do those little things, when you do read for 5 minutes, or you do learn something new, or you do those things that are just little, that are romanticizing your life. In this case, we're talking about like learning and how to make learning a lifestyle. So I'm just talking about those, but it's like, get really excited. Like really get excited and think about why this is so great, and allow yourself to really feel the emotion and happiness, or like literally jump around, like jump up and down like a little kid and get like childlike about it. That will release the dopamine in your brain, and you're gonna want that feeling again. That's why cocaine is so addictive, because it releases all this dopamine in your brain that says, do that again, do that again. We like that, and so you can emulate those same neurochemical reactions in your life and use those to your advantage. And that's how you are going to stay consistent with this. So yeah, I think that's all I have. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that this inspired you and helped you guys maybe just want to learn a little bit more, and give you some practical tools that you can use to implement learning into your life, and just invest in your education. Promise you, it's going to be the most amazing thing that you ever do. Remember that you are your life's work. And thank you for listening and watching. And hopefully next week we'll have an actual studio set up, which I'm so excited about. And yeah, I really am so grateful for anyone that's listening, for anyone that supported me through this. I'm so excited about this podcast, and I'm putting in as much effort into it as I can to make it as educational and valuable and entertaining to you guys as I can. And if you want me to talk about different content, have people on maybe, comment. I appreciate any and all feedback. So yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.